Hey everybody, Rob from Karma Comic Chameleon. We had such a good response to the video yesterday, we wanted someone like you but cheaper, and so many people asked us to bring out the story of Ian. So we're gonna do that. It's a 5-part story, and we're gonna try and do it in one video. Where are we going, and why are we in this handbasket? Let's jump right in. Part 1. I'm working for the Earl Scheib of consulting firms. We'll do anything for a mid-market blended rate. This also means we pinch every penny. Our expenses, travel, and staffing are janky to deal with. Non-security people get staffed on security projects, and I get staffed on implementation projects. I'm getting sent to the far suburbs of Salt Lake City to do a week-long find and fix for an insurance broker, Insco. To backstop me, I'm getting Ian, a real cybersecurity rockstar, to help me. Over the next few years, I will call Ian a lot of things, but rockstar won't be one of them. I'm Eastern Standard Tribe, so I have to spend half a day flying out there. I'm beginning to learn that Kevin, our in-house travel agent, is dangerously stupid. Per Kevin, I have a connection in Chicago. I'm flying into O'Hare, but my flight out is Midway. Good job, Kevin. I'm alternating between downloading whatever data dumps Insco has made available to us and leaving annoyed voicemails at Kevin. Hey Kevin, I need you to change my flight tomorrow. I don't know if I can cross Chicago and get to my gate in 45 minutes. Hey Kevin, it's lawtechie. Can you get back to me once you get this? That'd be great. I'm also reading over what Insco actually does. They sell any kind of insurance you can imagine from multiple insurance companies. This means that they'll have to meet the nitpicky requirements of every insurer they do business with. They also take credit cards, which rhymes with PCI. And nothing from their network design suggests that they actually meet any of these requirements. We're going to be busy finding issues, convincing Insco that they're issues, then coming up with fixes that won't make Insco kick our asses to the curb. Kevin finally gets back to me. I understand you have a question about your flights tomorrow. Your connection is through Chicago. No, it's through Chicago. 2 different airports. Well, there's a non-refundable fee to change the tickets. I'm sure it's cheaper than a crosstown taxi ride. I'll fix it. It'll be a later flight to SLC. I'll change the budget accordingly. I try to be a good coworker and let Ian know I'm going to be an hour or 2 late. I send him an email giving him my new arrival time to SLC and that we can take my rental car from the airport to the hotel. I stupidly think that everything's settled and go back to reviewing docs. I fly out the next day, radio silence from Ian when I'm at O'Hare. I fly to SLC and land around 10 p.m. local time. I see that I have 3 emails. I skim them while waiting to get off the plane. LT, your utilization numbers are low. Travel isn't billable anymore. To meet budget on this project, I moved your rental reservation to Ian. Let me know if you have any questions. Waited half an hour, drove to the hotel. I trudge out to the baggage carousel and wait for my checked bag. I make my way to the one rental agency that I have some status at in the hopes that I can get some other fine car and make my way to the hotel before midnight. Hi, what's your reservation number? Me sliding a credit card and my driver's license toward Cheerful. Someone who is soon to be deceased canceled my reservation. I may not be friendly, but I am flexible. What do you have available? Still Cheerful rental agent typing away at his terminal. I'm still looking. I see you're from City. Are you a fan of sports ball? Me trying to restrain myself. No, not really. You know, we're not known for being good fans. We had to grease the light poles when a team won the championship. We threw snowballs at Santa Claus because reasons. We're not good people. The quickest way to get me away from you is to give me the keys to a rental car. Not as Cheerful rental agent. I don't have anything available. I open my wallet and push a $50 bill toward the agent. Ulysses Grant says I'm amenable to something that just got checked in. I don't care if it needs to be cleaned or given an oil change. I want a ride to suburb and to get a good night's sleep. Much quieter rental agent. I have a 15-passenger van, but sold. I get some paperwork and make my way to the lot. Sure enough, there's a church van and keys. I get to drive this monster to some low-range hotel. check in, and sleep fitfully through the night. In the morning, I clean up, put on a suit, and make my way to the free breakfast. Hopefully, I can find Ian and discuss our plan for the day. Pretty much the only people eating the boxed scrambled eggs are construction workers. Someone who clearly doesn't fit in walks in. He's twitchy, eating his dry toast while reading something on a laptop covered with hacker stickers. I walk over and sit down. "Hello, Ian, I'm LT. Let's talk about how we're going to split up the work this week." "I had to get my own rental car, that was annoying." "Yeah, I share your annoyance." Ian launches into a one-sided discussion about how smart he is. I realize that he's never successfully interviewed staff about how things actually work, so I get him to agree that I'll run the first interview with the operations crew, and he'll take notes and chime in when necessary. It seems so simple over weak coffee and styrofoam eggs. We drive over to Insco's office park. We are ushered into a generic conference room where a handful of sullen and guarded IT staff. I lead with some self-deprecating humor, mention that I used to be a sysadmin back when Linux was a hobby and real Unix was used for heavy lifting, and start asking easy questions. Within 10 minutes, they're confessing all their sins. Every customer interaction is stored in MasterDB. MasterDB is hosted on the same system as www. Credit cards and CVVs are stored in MasterDB. There's a shared root account, developers, IT, and for some perverse reason customer service all have the password. I've scribbled a bunch of notes with underlines, circles around words, and arrows that must mean something. I realize we're almost out of time, so I ask Ian if he has any follow-up questions. Not looking up from his laptop, no. I thank the operations staff for their time, collect some email addresses, and walk them out of the room. I've got about 10 minutes until the next interviews. Stupidly, I engage Ian in conversation. "So, anything that stood out to you? Get good notes?" Still not looking up from his laptop. "I didn't know what questions you were going to ask, so I checked out." I'm internally debating between finding some finite tasks for Ian to do, or to figure out if I can expense a shovel and bury Ian somewhere in the Utah desert. Part 2. Still not looking up from his laptop. "I don't know what questions you were going to ask, so I checked out." I take a deep breath. I can't bill killing Ian, but I do have a time budget for managing staff. I'm going to find something for Ian to do. If you aren't interested in the interviews, can you do some testing against their web applications? There are credentials for their staging environment in the flurry of emails a few days ago. Sure, where is it? It's in your email. I didn't read it. Start. A large looming man walks into the conference room. He looks like a color-corrected Thanos if you put him in a corporate logoed golf shirt, Dockers, and a steady diet of fried food. Instead of destroying my village, he extends a hand. "Hi there, I'm Ronn, corporate counsel. Betsy's running late, but we can get started." "I'm lawtechie, and my colleague is Ian." I stand up and extend my hand. Ian does not acknowledge Ronn in any way. I kick Ian's chair. "This is Ian. He's doing the technical heavy lifting for this engagement, while I'm going to understand your processes." Ian looks up and gives Ronn a half-hearted wave. I figure I need to distract Ronn from Ian's petulant attitude. I need to ask a legal question to get Ronn talking. "When Insco signs a contract, how do you track all the requirements under that contract?" "Well, I review large contracts and note concerns for Insco." "And after the contract is signed, who makes sure you're doing everything you promised to do?" "Good question. I'll assume the counterparty. I don't think there's anybody here who keeps track of it." "How about licensing? I'm not an insurance expert, but I believe you have to be licensed in a state to sell insurance there. Who is responsible for that?" "That'd be Betsy." That's the answer to the next few questions. I'm trying to look like I was better prepared, so slow down my questioning a bit. "It's not working." Both Ronn and I look at Ian. Luckily, Ronn can't see Ian's screen. Ian has Armitage, a front end for Metasploit, a host, not web app, pen testing tool, and is trying to exploit www.insco.com, not the staging environment we were asked to test. Ian's cursor is over the Hail Mary button, which tries everything that might work. It also might knock the server over. "Ian, can I see your laptop for a second? There are some documents on it that would be useful to discuss with Ronn and Betsy." I don't give Ian a chance to consent. I grab his laptop, close Metasploit, and open some random documents. I've made a grave mistake. I just don't realize it yet. I see a woman in her late 20s or early 30s poke her head in the conference room. "Hi there, sorry I'm late." "That's not a problem. Good to finally meet you. According to Ron, you're the person to talk to about compliance things." "That's one of the hats I wear." I try to structure the conversation, breaking the requirements into smaller chunks: PCI, HIPAA, state insurance requirements, and contracts with the insurance companies themselves. Each of these chunks reveals uncomfortable truths. Their PCI self-assessment, SAQ, is a tapestry of lies. HIPAA is missing a few useful controls. Relationship managers are responsible for the contracts with the insurers, but they don't communicate any of the contract requirements, such as data retention, security, or privacy requirements to the rest of the company. We're discussing an internal application to make sure work goes to the right brokers. Insco sells medical, auto, and homeowner insurance in 40-some states. Across their 30 or so brokers, those states are covered. Insco has an internal app to make sure that Steve from Long Island gets connected to a broker licensed in New York. Sounds like Betsy has concerns about it. If unlicensed brokers are selling insurance, unspecified bad things will happen. Of course, the same app tracks commissions and is on the same system as www. Of course, this is complicated by the lack of documentation, so Betsy and I are being careful while Ron uses the word allegedly a lot, like that will prevent a regulatory action. iframe. What is that? It solves your problems. What is that, and how does it solve the unlicensed broker issue? Ian, are you thinking putting an iframe to a payment processor like Global Payments or Vantiv? Duh. Turning to Ron and Betsy, Ian has an option to solve some of the PCI issues we discussed 10 minutes ago. If you like, we can discuss this once we've gone through, and we can do encryption for the other thing. I realize Ian needs a distraction rectangle. I quickly disassociate the laptop's tether with his phone and slide his laptop over to him in the hopes that he'll shut up. We finally run out of our allotted time with Betsy and Ron. I stand up and nudge Ian and thank them both for their time. As Ron lumbers out of the room, I lean toward Betsy. "I imagine you have more to tell me, not in earshot of counsel. Catch up this afternoon?" Betsy nods and walks out. "Ian, let's go get some lunch." I find some kind of chain in close proximity to Insco's offices. As Ian drives, I try to work out a criticism sandwich. "Ian, you had good recommendations there. I'm sure they'll end up in the final report. I do want to talk to you about some stuff though. We're collecting information right now. We don't know everything they need, so recommendations may be premature. Also important, we don't have authorization to do a pen test against their production environment." "That doesn't make sense. If they put it out there, they should expect it to be hacked." There's a big f***ing difference between it got hacked and the pen testers we paid broke the production environment. I've never been kicked off a job site and would like to keep that streak. I also asked you to take a poke at their web app. Did you find anything? Metasploit didn't find anything. Not the right tool. Don't tell me how to do my job. This is going to be a slog. Part 3. Don't tell me how to do my job. Ian pulls into the strip mall, shoves the car into park, and starts stomping towards a chain sandwich shop. He's like the sullen teenager I never wanted. Nowadays, I direct him to Hot Topic and let him wallow in his feelings. Even though I'm in the advice business and know that unsolicited advice has negative marginal value, I think Ian needs an intervention. I follow him into the sandwich shop. While we're waiting to order and get our sandwiches, I try to talk some sense into Ian. Look, I know you're annoyed with me, but we have a lot of tasks to complete to get this engagement completed. I want to prevent the client from hating us by the time we have to deliver. All you do is talk to the customer and write reports. I'll do the real work. I realize that I've never started a fist fight in the order line at a Subway. Ian and I may have a new experience today. Adopting the therapist voice I learned when I was on a help desk. Ian, the work we have to do is the statement of work as well as a projected plan. There is an application pen test, but no host pen test. Client isn't paying for one. What do you want to do? Ian looking at me with a strange intensity. I want to make it rain shells. That'll show them. I'm looking at the menu board in the hopes that the right answer to Ian is written there. Instead, there are a selection of sandwiches. I make myself say Italian sub to the order taker. While waiting for our order, I try again with Ian. Ian, put aside that they're not paying for a pen test, what value does a pen test have for them? It will make them more secure once they're scared. Ian, a pen test is for mature shops to say that all the ground floor doors are made of steel and locked except for that wooden one round back. These guys are missing walls and don't know it. They'll think if they fix the one path you came in, they're good. We need to get them good enough to where a pen test will actually be of value. Are you saying pen testing is useless? I'm losing my temper. For this client at this time, yes. You're saying that because you just can't hack. That's it. Ian's order comes up, he grabs his sandwich and walks out the door towards the rental car. I don't have my sandwich yet. I step out the door and yell at him across the parking lot. Use burp, you asshole. I seem to have the attention of everyone in and near the sandwich shop. I think they're less scandalized by my language, wondering what kind of insult it was. Ian gets in the car and drives off. I get my sandwich and a bottle of soda and walk the half-mile back to Insco's offices. I sit outside and eat my half sandwich in silence. If I get him kicked off the project, it's going to look bad for me. I'll be rushing the deliverable, and it'll look like I can't manage projects. If Ian breaks something, it will be clear that I can't manage projects. I do need someone to interview Insco's development team. Ian claims to know the frameworks that they're using. Maybe flattery will work. I enter the building, find the kitchen, and put the rest of my sandwich in the fridge. Ian staring into the blue glow of his laptop. I take a quick stroll and notice that Insco's not too bad with the security culture. Staff lock their screens when they get up. They've got locking shredder bins and reminders to be careful with sensitive data on posters. I bump into Betsy. Hey, how's it going? Is everything as terrible as it looks? We've identified some issues around your architecture, but everything's flexible. It's just convincing y'all that you can and should. It's like an intervention. We'll all read our letters about how much we care. There will be arguments and tears, and you'll get on a better path while cheesy music plays. Betsy seems scandalized for a second. I love that show, but not for good reasons. Where are my babies? Yeah, me too. It's to make you feel better. I might not like my life, but at least I'm not drinking mouthwash. Betsy covers her mouth and laughs. I sense a presence behind me. It's Ian. Betsy, I don't want to take up your time. Just wanted to give you an update and let you know where we are in the process. I turn to Ian. He's less hostile than the last time I saw him. Ian, let's see what we have left to do today and we can split up tasks. I start guiding him back to the conference room. He's strangely compliant. If he's going to start yelling at me, I'd prefer a closed room to the cube farm where people are talking to customers. Back in the conference room, I close the door. How'd you do that? Do what? Talk to her. Uh-oh. I'm letting her know that we're finding issues and that they're not insurmountable, which is good news to her. She knew there were problems, which is why we're here. What we all want is that the report will be concerning, but not shocking. But how do you talk to her like that? No, Ian, no. Ian, we can talk about that when we're done for the day. I'd like you to help me with something technical. Can you figure out how to break up the customer-facing, card processing, and commission tracking databases without breaking too many things? If you can write that up, I'll talk to you about more successful interactions with people. Okay. That was too easy, but I was too dumb to know it. I leave Ian in the conference room to go interview Insco's devs. I'd like to see if I can get buy-in for moving the sensitive data off the www server. I'll ask a bunch of questions about how busy they are so they don't feel like I'm shaming them for shoving everything onto one server. I crack a few jokes, take a bunch of notes, and nod seriously when they say that they have some concerns about the architecture, but there's a lot of inertia when it comes to changing things. The rest of the workday is spent writing. I do my best to stay out of the conference room so I don't change Ian's state. Eventually, 6 p.m. rolls around and we travel back to the hotel. Ian's more tolerable on the drive back, but not much. Sullen silence is one thing, but all of a sudden he's interested in something that I mistake as an interest in the client. I stupidly suggest that he do a little open source intelligence on Insco staff. How long do people stay? Where else have they worked? And the like. It helps to know what sort of people Insco hires. Do they hire on cost, pedigree, or something else? Ian and I split up when we get to the hotel. I sit in my room and replay a few moments from the day in my head. Something bothers me, but I can't figure out if it's merely my dislike of Ian or something else. After a while, I go back outside. I drive my church van to a local market, buy some beer and snacks, then get some fast food on the way back to the hotel. I can't bear to eat the other half of my unappealing lunch meat on a long roll thing. There's a walkway outside my room. From the second floor, I have a view of the parking lot. I'm sitting outside, leaned up against my room's door with fast food, a book and a can of beer, watching the sun go down. To the amusement of the more casually dressed guests, I'm still in my suit and looking a little disheveled as I polish off a few more beers. My phone buzzes. It's an email from Betsy, CCing Ron and a few other Insco people. Attached are a few risk management docs I had asked for previously, a risk register entry, and a security requirements document from one of the insurance companies they do business with. I go back to my book. A few minutes later, my phone buzzes again. Ian's responded to Betsy's email. Instead of a mere thank you, he's asking to go out for coffee or drinks with Betsy. I know this because he selected reply all. I look at my phone. I look at my beer. I need to do something. I take a deep breath, stand up, and walk into my room. I grab my sad sandwich, walk back outside, and throw the sandwich at Ian's rental car, splattering wilted lettuce over the windshield. Part 4. I've written emails to my boss, letting him know about the potential dumpster fire and Ian to stop pouring gasoline in the dumpster unless he wants to light it from the inside. No response from either. Next morning, I shower, caffeinate, put on an unwrinkled suit, and wait in the van near the entrance of the hotel. I can see Ian's be-sandwiched rental car from the rearview window. My phone rings. It's my supervisor at the consulting firm. They believe I'm overreacting. Somehow, sent inappropriate email to client employee and CCing counsel is inflammatory. They don't want me to make anything worse by apologizing to Betsy or making Ian unhappy. I'm reminded that they hold Ian in high regards. I get a little heated with my supervisor and toss my phone into the passenger side footwell in anger. A man wearing a fleece jacket walks up to the driver's side window. When do you leave for the airport? What? When can you drive me to the airport? What do you think, I'm the shuttle driver? You're not? I'm about to yell at this man for being stupid, then realize that I'm wearing a suit and driving a passenger van parked in front of a consultant kennel hotel. It's a safe assumption. No, I've made some bad decisions in my life that led me here. The man walks back to the hotel, occasionally looking back at me with a puzzled look. I realize that I'm going to be late if I wait much longer, so I drive to Insco's office in my church van. I've got to meet with the two people on their systems team. I've got a proposed solution to the everybody is root problem, but I need to build some grassroots support before I pitch management. I'm in a room with Javier and Samantha. Javier has that I've been burned out in IT longer than you've been in IT look. Samantha is the program manager for the web application. She nods meaningfully at technical questions, but doesn't volunteer much. I can't tell if she's doing this to not look dumb or she doesn't want to hear Javier's clouds of fad rant again. I learn more about Insco's operations. The 40% of Insco's workforce has root problem is worse than I thought. Javier changes the password once a year. The super user account for the applications that Insco runs on uses the same as the root password. Patching takes place on the same day as the password change. Usually when I see some really odd bad design, I assume that someone thought it was a good reason, TM, to do it at the time, and nobody's had the time or interest or need to fix it. To identify it, I adopt the voice my father used when he confronted me after I painted the Batman logo on the doors of his '68 Corvette, in white house paint. In my defense, I was 5 at the time. Okay, I'd like to know why you have the one account for everyone's access. We did it for performance reasons. What sort of performance reasons did you have? We had an account rep who was complaining that the application was slow when they logged in. I figured that reducing the numbers of lookups to the account database could speed up the process. And that worked? The user stopped complaining. Javier slaps his knee and laughs. Samantha just stares ahead. I just want to make sure I understand. The application uses Active Directory to handle authentication, so you have a maintained industry standard to work from, and you aren't supporting a bunch of users? Like I said, performance reasons. Did you allocate any more resources to that system? Looking at me with contempt. I put important systems on bare metal. Okay, is it on-prem? Follow me. Samantha and I walk to a closet. There are a few cabinets here and a beige PC that I assume is for propping the door open or acting as a crash cart. Javier points to the PC. I wiggle the mouse and see that this relic is running Windows Server 2003, which isn't EOL yet. A quick lookup shows that this would have been a low-end business PC sometime in 2001. You never felt the need to upgrade? Why do we have to? Do you have to justify the expense? Of course. Okay, HIPAA security rule. You have a requirement to follow the principle of least access, or in HIPAA speak, appropriate access. How does that impact us? Fines, insurers may pull your right to sell policies. That would have some impact on your bottom line. Me pointing at the racks. Your customer-facing infrastructure is all here, no failover? Javier points at one rack. The top half is the primary, pointing at another rack. The failover is down there. I see. Nothing at a colo? Nope. I'm going to recommend that we spend a little money on hardware to support the load. How hard will it be to make the app support multiple users? I don't know. That's going to be hard. I think it's doable. Maybe some testing? I'll write up a plan and a proposed engagement. Are you going to make me look bad? The shared password isn't good, but we can fix it going forward. I thought it made us safer. The fewer passwords, the lower the chance that someone can brute force one. Huh? I've not heard that one before. You know it doesn't work that way, right? Well, when you've been doing this for a long time, you have to get creative. He does that knee-slapping and nervous laughing thing. I hope they give Javier a nice severance when he goes to live on a farm. I take my leave and wander back to the conference room Ian and I have been using. Ian's not there, but his laptop is. I start writing up my notes from the previous conversation and continue on my report. No emails of consequence, so I hope things aren't going to get stupid. Ian walks in and spends time with his laptop. I quickly glance at his screen. That's nice. He's ordering someone flowers with his corporate card. Part 5. Ian's ordering flowers. There's a dark part of me doing the cost-benefit analysis to letting Ian loose. Other than the web pen test, I've got enough to write a decent report which fulfills our contract. Ian's blowing us up just means no implementation work or referrals, and maybe some management side fireworks which will burn his ass more than mine. I'm not going to intervene, I'm just going to document. I'm writing down my notes from the last meeting as well as a proposal for fixing their AD and catching up on all the work Javier hasn't done. Ian claims to be almost done with some findings. Lunch happens. I see a delivery person carrying a bouquet of flowers. They're set up in Betsy's cube with a fair amount of finger pointing towards the conference room we've been camping in. She's not there yet. Ian's looking up from time to time to see when Betsy notices the flowers. I can't handle the cringe. I'm going to hide in my hotel room and do some work. I pack up and walk out to the parking lot. I find my van and get in it. As I drive out, I see Betsy walking into the office. I roll down my window and wave. She waves back. I stop to talk. I'm sorry. For last night, you didn't send that email. No, you'll see. I don't understand. If you're annoyed, contact boss. His email address is in the kickoff email. Is there a problem? Not to the project. I shouldn't have brought it up. I'll see you tomorrow. Betsy seems a bit puzzled and annoyed. I drive my people hauler back to the hotel. I lie down on the bed and resume drafting our findings and recommendations. We're recommending that Insco move their payment system into a small enclave that isn't directly connected to the internet. If they don't like that, we recommend moving all their credit card ops into an iframe so Insco never sees the credit card information, allowing them to dramatically reduce their burden under PCI. Making everybody use their own account with proper role-based lease access as well is going to require some implementation work. This is going to be a pretty easy sale. Insco can give us their money and problems and we'll make both go away. I take my write-up and email it to Stan, a fellow consultant at my firm who needs work. He's been on the bench for 2.5 months, which means there's someone thinking about laying him off to reduce costs. I ask him if my time and effort estimates look right and if he's interested in the work. Stan doesn't bother emailing, he calls me. Normally, I'd be annoyed while I'm trying to get work done, but he's probably the sanest person I'll talk to today. Hey LT, your numbers look good, I'll start working on a plan. I love your enthusiasm, but we haven't sold it yet. I'll put your name in to do it, it's right up your alley, and if you need late night help, I'll help out to get you billable. Thanks. I say my goodbyes and go back to writing. I see that I have an email from Ian. It's a link to a file on our SharePoint with findings on Insco's web application. I send the proposal right up to my boss with a recommendation for Stan. I grab the document without reviewing it and go back to task at hand. I want to get everything else in my report clean so I can just drop in Ian's stuff. I'm a fan of writing and drinking, but I'm out of beer. I take the transporter and pick up appropriate quantities of beer and food, then drive back to the hotel. Walking back from the parking lot, I see Ian sitting at a picnic table. He doesn't look happy. He's not staring at a screen, so it must be bad. Hey, how are you doing? Not good, I'm in the friend zone. Okay, has anybody from our firm contacted you about this? No, Betsy hasn't been convinced yet. I should have bought her some jewelry. Jewelry? That's not a good idea. How do I convince her? Should I ask her out to dinner? This requires alcohol. I put a beer in front of Ian and open one for myself. Ian, Betsy isn't one of those dating sim games. I'm sure if she was interested, she'd let you know. It's rude to keep making advances at her job. Should I go to her house? No, that's a worse idea. How about signing up for a dating app? I've heard that might work. Getting annoyed. So I should just stay in the friend zone? Ian, you're not in the friend zone. You're not her friend. You're here to do a job and vanish. So's mine. My phone rings. My boss wants to talk about the additional work we can pitch Insco. I wave goodbye to Ian and walk to my room. I try to talk up Stan. My boss reminds me that Ian's well respected and that since there's already a relationship with the client, Ian will stay here and do the additional work. I don't think that's a good idea. Ian bought flowers for Betsy, the project sponsor. It's uncomfortable. That's just a client's expense, like buying a round of drinks. Okay, just thought you should know. I'll have the deliverable ready for QC tomorrow and I'll be flying back after that. Sounds good, just make sure Insco will like the report. Fast food and 3.2 beer make for a meal of sadness. Then I read Ian's findings from the web app pen test. Nothing. No vulnerabilities found. I find this hard to believe, given everything else I've seen this week. Well, Ian is well respected. I work fairly late and get everything together in the doc, then send it to another consultant for a peer review. I have a slow start. Drinking, dry air, and late night deliverable writing can do that. I shower, put on a suit, and make my way to Insco's offices. I have a short meeting with Betsy and some kind of exec who seems bothered that I'm in his building. I try to simplify my findings and recommendations to 3 or 4 items. Exec derails me pretty quickly. I don't see you mentioning the firewall. I noted you had a few, but they are not a concern for me. But it's security. It's a quality firewall, that's for sure, but you have other problems that it doesn't fix. So what do you want to sell us? I think you need to rearrange what you already have to fix what we found. I don't want to hear that bullshit. Yes, my company would like to sell you more time. I'd like to see you get some real security here for your customers, but I'm not paid a commission for that work. We do pretty good work. If you don't go with us, go with someone. You need the outside help. It's not the best sales pitch, but I wasn't expecting to do one this morning. Betsy walks out with me. I bid goodbye to a few people here, including Javier. Are you coming back to do the implementation? No, I'm on another engagement next week. Are you taking Ian back with you? We took separate cars, so not yet. We're in different cities as well. So you rented that big van for yourself? That's all they had. U-Haul was closed. She laughs. I drive back to the hotel, collect my stuff. I pull in front of the lobby and offer a few passers-by a ride to the airport. I don't get any takers. I get to the airport early, so I take a leisurely meal and write some stories that may have ended up here. I don't see the fireworks until I get back home. Epilogue. Stan wasn't put on the implementation work. A few weeks later, he was laid off. He's working now as a project manager at a large company and seems happier. It took 2 days for Ian to really screw things up. I was CC'd on an email asking that he be removed from the Insco implementation for inappropriate behavior. I got called, first to pick up where Ian left off, then for a much less pleasant conversation with HR, who wondered why I didn't tell anybody that Ian was a problem. I left that discussion a bit wiser about how management views emails that don't fit with the story they like. A few weeks later, the work from home policy was changed. Ian got to be a fully remote pen tester, only to be fired a few months later for testing in production and knocking something over that didn't come back up cleanly. Ever so often, I'll hear from Ian or someone who was thinking of hiring him. He's gone through some interesting phases. The red pill and pickup artist phase was definitely more amusing than the cryptocurrency evangelist. According to Javier's LinkedIn, he's an independent consultant now. I hope that's working out for him. I stayed at that consulting firm for a few more months, doing whatever came in the door, then moved to another job. I honestly can't imagine the kinds of people that OP has to deal with on a daily basis in that job. I mean, the clients are bad, but if you have to work with people that are like that as well, that just makes your days even longer. I want to thank OP for posting this series of stories to the Tales from Tech Support subreddit. You can visit them at the links in the description down below. I'll also link to yesterday's video, which has a little bit of Ian at the end, but is another great tech support story from this OP. Once again, this is Rob from Karma Comic Chameleon saying thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and share it with your friends, and we'll see you in the next one.